Hi, happy Thursday. I'm Allegra Ramos, your resident self-care forward productivity and time management expert. Why do I say self-care forward? Because I believe that the first step to being productive is to make sure you're taking care of yourself. Because if you don't take care of yourself, then the only thing you can do is focus on your personal health. So, self-care forward, brain science-based productivity and time management expert. I am the author of these 4 short read workbooks that are all designed to help you prioritize yourself and your goals. They're all super short, give you some tips. If you don't know where to start, the first one to start might be 3, 2, 1 done. This is my bestseller, and this book I feel like is the closest thing to making more time in your day that you will come upon. So, give it a read. And I like to talk about all things self-care, productivity, brain science, all the things. And today I was supposed to be interviewing a friend of mine who joins me regularly on the podcast, Christine. However, she's a mom, and as sometimes happen, things got in the way. So, I am going to be talking about a topic that I was going to talk about next week, which is packing light. And do I have a printable for that? Why, yes. Thank you for asking. You can find it at this QR code here or at the URL tinyurl.com/BYWD pack light. So I will get to packing light in a little bit. By the way, I was always a chronic overpacker until about 3 years ago when I went on a trip, and I will tell you more about that, and I had to pack light. But before I get started, if you've joined me before, you know that I am live, and so you can chat, either type or whatever you were doing, and if there's a question that I think is relevant to the discussion, I will be happy to answer it. And if you are seeing the recording, you're also happy to I'm also be happy to listen to your or read your comments or questions. I just might take a little bit longer to get to them. So, thank you for joining me. I always like to call out some interesting facts about where my listeners are from. My podcast is heard in over 90 countries now, and it's always fascinating to see the top 10 countries where the listeners are coming from. And we had a new recent addition into the top 10, and that is Spain. Hola, España. Oh my gosh, I love Spain so much. I Was it the first country I've ever visited outside of the United States? Probably not. I probably went to Mexico before that. But it's one of the earliest countries I've ever visited. I love Spain. I've spent a lot of time there, probably combined about a year of my life in Spain with all the times that I visited. I love it so much. My favorite towns are Barcelona and Sevilla. And my favorite place is the Alhambra, which the Alhambra is a Moorish built castle in the southern part of Spain in a town called Granada. By the way, Granada is the Spanish word for pomegranate. So I was so young the first time I saw it, and it has stuck with me my entire life because it's just magnificent. The way the engineers are able to bring water into surprising places. Like, for instance, I remember there being a stairwell, and the handrail of the stairwell was carved out. And so as you're walking down the stairs, there's water coming down the handrail. How cool was that? And just the sound of running water everywhere because the Moors were from North Africa, very arid place. So for them, water was the ultimate luxury, which really, water is the ultimate luxury for all of us, I think. And as this whole concern about technology needs taking up drinking water, yes, if you're not aware, data centers affect drinking water. And if you're concerned about that, then please go to fivecalls.org. That's the number 5, CALLS.org, and write or call your representatives. If you go to fivecalls.org and you just click on the issue that's bothering you, they will give you a script. They will give you the phone numbers. All you have to do is enter your zip code. Make your voice known. It only takes 2 minutes. It does make a difference. I can't go into how it makes a difference right now because I don't have time for that. But trust me, it does. Your voice matters. If we all complain about this, it will go away. And I mean, this has been such a big issue that Aaron Brockovich has gotten involved because apparently we're right now, the projections are that we'll run out of drinking water by 2039 if we don't do something about this. Okay. So people need drinking water more than machines do. Okay. That's all about that. So the Alhambra, amazing, gorgeous, stunning place. Let's see. I also found some other interesting facts about Spain that I did not know. There is a town in Spain called Correa del Rio. It's near Sevilla, where about 700 of the inhabitants have the same surname, and that surname is Japón, which in Spanish means Japan. And the reason why is because they're all descended from a 17th century samurai who visited Spain on a diplomatic journey. His name was Hasekura Tsunegaga, and apparently they referred to him as Hasekura de Japón, and that became his descendant's last name, and eventually it just got shortened to Japón. So fascinating. I had no idea. And in Spain, there's a tradition of eating grapes on the new year, on the countdown, 12 to be precise. So you eat one grape, if you can, on each stroke of midnight, the bell tolling. Don't choke. That sounds potentially dangerous. And it's said to bring you good luck for the year. And around 44% of the world's olive oil is produced by Spain. By the way, there are many different types of olive oil. I prefer buttery olive oils to peppery ones, but get to know your olive oil. Not every olive oil is the same. Farmers markets are fantastic ways to sample olive oils. There's an olive oil sampling booth, vinegar and olive oil at my local farmers market, and I always love trying all the different olive oils. And then finally, if you're not familiar, siestas are a real thing. It gets super hot during certain parts of the day in the southern Spain, and they incorporated a siesta from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. when a lot of stores, etc., close for the day. And actually, a lot of times, school children will actually go home for lunch, stay for the siesta, and then go back to school later. People do go back to work after. And it's actually a really nice, I feel like it's a really nice ritual once you get used to it. It's horrible if you need to go to a pharmacy, which has happened to me, but lovely most of the time. So thank you, Spain, for joining me. I'm so happy to have you here. And I'm excited to learn about the fact about Japón. Now I have to visit a new place in Spain. I don't think I've ever been to that town. And always a good reason to go back to Granada. So today, one other thing. I have to pull from my little deck of positive chaos. Let's see what it says today. That it will never come again is what makes life so sweet. Emily Dickinson. You have to enjoy every moment. You have no idea how many moments you're going to have, right? So make them all count. And I'm so happy to be here with you today in this moment. Oh, here's a funny... This is a funny thing that I picked up when I was in Barcelona. He is called a kagara. And I don't know if you can see him very well. He's really brightly lit because he's so pale. But let's see. If I go like this, maybe you can see. So the kagara, I actually bought this for my grandfather. And when he passed, I brought it because my grandfather liked anything that he said was a good conversation starter. And when he passed, I brought it home and it sits here on my desk so I can think of my grandfather. And so the kagara is a big part of the Catalonian. So the part of Barcelona, that part of Spain is known as Catalonia. And they, just like the United States, different parts of Spain have different cultures and different traditions. And I first saw the kagara around Christmas time because he is part of the nativity scene in Barcelona. And I said, who is that little like dwarf guy? Because the hat, this is all traditional Catalonian garb, but to me, he looks like what I would imagine an elf is wearing, like a fantasy elf. And he's smoking a cigarette. I don't know if you can see that. And he's contributing back to the earth. And for those of you who are listening, you're just gonna have to see the video because, yep, he's a little Hershey kiss there. So, oh, I never even noticed it has the artist's name on it, Gambarte. So he is part of the nativity scene because he symbolizes humanity's giving back to the earth and how it's like this is the Catalonian version of the circle of life. And it's a real thing. They also the whole circle of life thing goes even further. Sometimes if you go to the candy stores around Christmas time, they will have little chocolate poops with sugar flies spinning around it. So I love the Spaniards are so fecal. Yeah, it explains a lot about Gaudi. So, anyway, today's topic, packing light. I was a chronic overpacker, especially because, oh, by the way, this shirt I'm wearing, I bought in Spain decades ago. I love it so much. I thought I'd bring it out for the show. Okay, so packing light. I domestically, I fly Southwest a lot. And as you all know, up until this past year, you could have 2 bags for free. And so when I was flying Southwest, I took everything I wanted and then some because you never knew what you might need. I like to have options. However, 3 years ago, I was traveling to Europe for a month and we visited 3 different countries and about a dozen cities. And we were doing a lot of different things because my daughter was actually touring with a choir. So we had to have a lot of different clothes available to us because she had these formal performances in like music halls. Think, the Pantages Theater or Carnegie Hall, like really nice places. So I had to have clothes that were appropriate for that. We also sometimes had some formal dinners, but then we'd also be going to the beach and hiking. And so I had to have options. The thing was, we were in each city for such little time that I didn't want to even risk losing my luggage. And we also had so many little flights between some of these destinations that I was concerned about one, losing luggage, and two, all these different airlines, actually the regional ones in Europe, they all charge for your luggage. So it's not included in the ticket price. So we had to buy these tickets, but then it was going to cost another around $1,200 in luggage fees for us to pack our bags onto every flight. And so I decided that this was going to be the trip where I learned how to pack light. And I started preparing for it 7 months before the trip because, hey, that's just how my brain works. I feel anxiety about something, I start planning further out because that's how I quell my anxiety. Planning has been shown to quell anxiety because, my anxiety is about not feeling prepared, and planning helps me feel prepared. So I did some research, and so this is kind of my first tip. And by the way, if you want my packing light guide, go to this QR code up here or go to tinyurl.com/BYWD pack light. Let's see where I'm trying to find okay, I will put it in I have to put it a new thing. BYWD pack light. tinyurl.com/BYWD pack light. And you can get my 4-page printable there, which also includes pictures of some of the things I packed. So it's very, very detailed. So check it out. I've been told it's very good. So there you go. So the first thing I did was I researched what kind of luggage I was going to take. And some of the regional airlines I was flying, like in Greece, had teeny, teeny, tiny little overhead compartments. So I decided on a backpack rather than anything with wheels because I wanted something that I knew was going to fit in everything. And by going with a backpack, I got about 25% more volume than I would with a roller bag because the roller bag, you lose all that volume to the architecture the framing of the roller bag, and I wanted all the volume possible because the reality is that even though they say they have a weight limit for carry-on luggage, the airlines are really only looking at volume for carry-on. As long as you can fit it in that overhead bin and under the seat in front of you, you are fine. And so I got this backpack, and it'll all be in the Pack Light, printable, exactly what backpack I got. I got one for myself, my husband, and my daughter, and we also all took a personal backpack as well. So a lot of times when we were waiting in line to board the plane, we'd have the heavier backpack on our backs and then the lighter personal bag with, our water bottle and a sweater or whatever that stuff was. We'd be standing with 2 backpacks on us. And honestly, it was a really easy way to get around. And thank God we did this because our flight back home was so delayed that when we flew from so we were flying from at that point, we were flying from Portugal to DC and then DC to Los Angeles. Our flight from Portugal was so delayed that when we got to DC, we had to run with our luggage for it was like right around a mile and a half to get from our terminal that we landed at to the terminal where we were departing from. I used to know exactly how many minutes it took because I wrote it all down. I was amazed when I looked at my Fitbit and how my heartbeat had been elevated for so long because literally we're running with these bags. My husband had to take one of my daughter's bags, and we jogged between terminals. Sweat was dripping. If we had to wait to collect checked luggage to go through customs and then go to the terminal, we would have missed our flight for sure. So thank God we only did carry on because that was the only way we made it. We literally got to our terminal within like 5 minutes of boarding. Like I barely got my breath back before we had to board. So, whew. Anyway, so backpacks. Backpacks work really great. I was able to get a stunning amount of items into it. My husband said that he even brought things that he didn't wear. And my husband had to bring a blazer for some formal dinners, and he has like size 12 feet. So his shoes take up a lot of space. So the fact that he felt like he had enough clothes for everything was amazing. Now, if you're one of those people who thinks, oh, but I like to go shopping when I travel, here's the thing. Here's some tips for that. First of all, a tip could be, and I learned this from a friend of mine, she always takes things that are kind of on their last legs when she travels. And that way, when she shops, she can just switch out the thing that is on its last legs or the thing that sometimes she'll even take things that she's kind of uncertain about. She's like, I don't know if I really like this sweater. She'll take it and then she'll donate it. And we had this happen on this trip. My daughter had packed this linen jumpsuit. And when we got there, she said, Mom, I think I've outgrown this. It's kind of, I'm feeling hunched over because the jumpsuit was compressing her. So we went to a store, we purchased something, and I said to the shopkeeper, I said, is it possible for you to give this to somebody that can use it because we don't have space to put it in our luggage? And she said, oh yeah, no problem. I'll find a home for it. So that's an easy thing to do. So you can do that. You can either pack something that you're kind of uncertain about and leave it there, or maybe you'll pack something on its last legs. I had a silk shirt. I didn't do this on purpose, but it actually tore while I was there. And so now it has me thinking like maybe I should take things that are on their last legs. And so, I just got rid of it and purchased something new. So there's always space also too as you're using things up, maybe toiletries or, menstrual pads or whatever, you're going to make space in your luggage for things to bring back. The other thing too was that we purchased a collapsible duffel bag and we brought that with us. It was in one of our personal carry-ons. We used it as a personal carry-on because the great thing about the collapsible duffel bag is that in theory, it could get really, really big. But if it wasn't full, you could just hold it like a tote bag and it was only about this big. So my husband put his backpack in there when we were going through airports or whatever. And he would also sometimes take my daughter's personal backpack and then he would wheel that or carry it or whatever. So we brought that just in case we had found something big that we wanted to bring back. This was our, okay, we have a way to bring it back if we need to. You can also always, you can probably, depending on where you're going, purchase some sort of luggage if you need to bring something back. So there's ways around that. I was able to bring back 5 ceramic birds that they were all different sizes, but let's say they were about, the biggest one was about this size. So how do I describe that? The size of a CD. For those of you who know what a CD is. And then some of the smaller ones were like half that size. So I was able to bring back some things that I wanted to bring back. I didn't feel like I couldn't shop because of my luggage. But also it was quite a busy trip, and so there wasn't necessarily a lot of time for shopping, if you will. By the way, I love, one of the things I love bringing back too are like the tickets from places. Like we actually went to Versailles and I was disappointed that it was all digital because I didn't have the ticket from Versailles. So I brought back like a coaster from the restaurant at Versailles. So I like bringing back things like that, paper things that I can then tape into my planner. Those are the kind of things that I like to bring. Okay. So tip number 1, get your luggage. Get it early. I purchased it about 7 months before our trip because that way I could experiment with it and load it up and see how heavy it was and all of those things. And also choose a backpack over a roller bag if you want to maximize volume. So for a 1-month trip, I definitely wanted to maximize volume. For a week, maybe not such an issue, but that was the trade-off. Tip number 2 is grab a muslin blanket because it is the best in the pinch item you will have. So because we were going to beaches, I wanted to ensure that we had a towel because I just didn't know where we were going to be. We're bouncing around between so many places. I didn't know if we would always be able to go from a hotel to the beach. Like there were some days where we were traveling, we were stopping at, actually we stopped at a river one day, just like on our way to somewhere else. So we didn't have a hotel. And terry cloth towels are very bulky. So I was looking at travel towels and I was kind of surprised at how bulky they were too. And then I thought to myself, hey, muslin swaddling blankets, which I used them a lot when my daughter was a baby. We swaddled her up all the time. And I was always impressed by how absorbent they were. When you wash them, they actually absorb a lot of water, but they also dry really quickly. And I said, you know what? I bet you a muslin swaddling blanket would be a great towel in a pinch. And for those of you watching the video, you can see, I mean, this is pretty big. So this was a perfect size for a towel in a pinch. It was also great for sun protection because in Greece, we were on a lot of boats and it was very sunny. And sometimes I just wanted a little more sun protection. And so I made myself a little cave like this. And it's nice too because it's so light. It's just made out of woven cotton. It's so light that it doesn't add any heat by holding it. The other thing too is like if you're going into a church and you need to either cover your head or cover your shoulders, it's great for that. So and actually the cool thing about these too was I actually didn't even pay for these. If you've heard me talk about the Buy Nothing group, I'm a huge fan. Join your Buy Nothing. If you give yourself enough time, you are going to be able to get swaddling blankets. That's what I did. I just got swaddling blankets. I was able to find ones that were all solids. They didn't have giraffes on them, which are great, but maybe not for travel. My husband wasn't so keen on bringing a giraffe muslin blanket. So they're great. They're also great if it suddenly turns cold because it was actually surprisingly cold. We were in Paris. It rained a lot. It was surprisingly cold. And you can see it makes a great little scarf. So it's just a nice, great layer. Grab yourself a muslin blanket. They are fantastic. There you go. So that's another tip. A third tip is if you are going somewhere cold, is to wear bundle up clothes when you get on the plane, and then take one of these. I got this one from Skechers. It's a little nylon backpack. And the great thing about it is that it actually has adjustable straps to make it more comfortable. And so this is a great thing to have because you can wear a lot of extra clothes onto the airplane and then take them off and stuff them in here. And then it can be, your pillow, your lumbar support, or if there's room, you can throw it into another bin. So I always have this extra bag in my luggage, backpack, and this muslin towel / cover up / whatever. So those are some ways to make it really, really easy to pack light. And again, if you go to this QR code or to this URL, tinyurl.com/BYWD pack light, you can get my 4-page printable where I go into great detail. I tell you exactly what I packed for this month-long trip, and also my strategies for doing everything. One other thing that I want to mention for anyone who is traveling with kiddos, one of the great things about the airlines with traveling with kiddos, I'm assuming this is still allowed. If you are checking a stroller or a car seat, those get checked for free, and get one of those big bags that covers it, and you can stuff in extra clothes into there. I did this all the time when we were traveling with a stroller and a car seat, where I would just put a ton of, this is back in my not packing light days. I would put a ton of clothes in there. So then we could check as little luggage as possible, because it would all get checked for free by using the duffel bag with the stroller or the car seat. So that's a great little hack if you're traveling with those items. Finally, I do go into a lot more detail in this 4-page printable about exactly the strategy I use to pack light, but it does involve with step 1, grabbing everything you want. Everything. I mean, everything. I grabbed all of my toiletries, and I was shocked when I weighed them. It was like 14 pounds because they're all liquids. They're all in glass bottles. I mean, not only was it bulky, right? It was probably about the size of a basketball in terms of volume, but it weighed about 14 pounds. And there are these great little containers I got. You'll see them in this printable that I was able to decant them into so I could bring just what I needed, just enough. And so I was able to get that 14 pounds down to 2 pounds. There were still little glass containers and it was still liquid. So, but by starting with, okay, here's everything I want to bring, it sort of helps calm my mind, because then I'm not thinking, well, what about this? What about that? What about this? My first step is literally grabbing everything I want, and then I winnow. I find that to be easier than thinking, what should I take? What should I take? Oh, yes. Okay. This is the one perfect blouse I'll bring. I don't think that way. And this is the same way I write. When I write my books, the way I write my books is I just vomit onto the page. And same thing with my comedy. I just vomit onto the page, and then I edit it down until I find the joke, and I edit it down until I find the book. Same thing here. I have a huge funnel. I throw all the clothes, all the things I want to bring, and then I say, "Oh, I guess I don't really need that thing. Oh, I really don't need that thing." And I feel like that just tricks my brain, because I'm coming from an abundance mindset. I'm saying, "Oh, look at all these things I could possibly bring." And then I'm saying, "Nope, that's not perfect. That's not perfect. That's not perfect." Versus trying to pack the other way, which is an empty piece of luggage, and saying, okay, what's the perfect thing to bring? That feels very anxiety inducing for me. So doing it the other way, the throw everything in and then take things out until you can actually zipper it closed and it fits and it's light enough that you can carry it. I have found that to be the strategy that works well for me. So as you're coming up to the summer season, I hope you have some wonderful, safe travels. A friend of mine will be joining me for my podcast next week, Mark Decarlo, the voice of the father in Jimmy Neutron, and well-known comedian and show host. He's going to be talking about happiness in the workplace. He does a lot of corporate training around happiness. And so I'm going to have him next week. So that will be fun. And again, click on this QR code here or go to tinyurl.com/BYWD pack light to get that 4-page printable. And be sure to like and subscribe wherever you're listening. And thank you for joining me. Remember, planning makes everything easier, especially packing. Bye.